Alright, here goes. I never thought I'd be posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Amber for almost 7 years. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but for the most part, I thought we were doing okay. At least, that's what I told myself. Amber and I met in college. We were this picture-perfect couple in the beginning, always laughing, doing the whole "we're so in love" thing. Over the years, though, things started to change. It was subtle at first. She got a little more distant, spent more time out with her friends, and I spent more time at work, just focusing on my career. Life, you know. But I still felt like she was my wife, and I was hers. At least that's what I kept telling myself. There were small signs that something wasn't right. She started being on her phone all the time, hiding it from me whenever I came near. Her texts would be weird, short, one-word replies, sometimes even late at night when I thought she'd be asleep. I chalked it up to her being busy, maybe overwhelmed with work or just needing some space. But deep down, I couldn't ignore that nagging feeling that something was off. Fast forward to a few months ago. I came home from work one evening, and Amber wasn't there. That's nothing out of the ordinary, honestly. She had a girls' night planned, so I figured she was just out with them. But I noticed that she left her phone on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I didn't even mean to snoop, but it felt like something was pulling me to it. Maybe I just wanted some peace of mind. So, I picked it up, and that's when everything changed. I wish I could say it wasn't what I thought it was, but it was. So there I was, holding Amber's phone, staring at the screen, just kind of frozen. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I was hoping it would be nothing. Maybe a simple text or some silly meme she got from one of her friends. But that wasn't what I found. I opened her messages, and right at the top, there was a conversation with a guy named Matt. I didn't recognize the name, and when I started reading, my stomach just dropped. The messages were flirtatious, no, beyond flirtatious. They were straight-up sexual. There were photos, too. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. Amber had been sending him explicit pictures, and there were messages like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and, "I miss your hands on me." It made me feel sick to my stomach. The more I read, the worse it got. This wasn't a one-time thing, either. They'd been talking like this for weeks, maybe even months. I scrolled down further, and it was clear they'd been meeting up in person too. There were dates, times, places. She'd been sneaking around behind my back, having sex with this guy, while I thought everything was fine. I couldn't breathe. My head was spinning. I didn't even know how long I stood there, staring at the phone, like I was in some kind of daze. Eventually, I slammed it down on the counter, almost throwing it in frustration. I couldn't believe what I had just uncovered. My wife, had been cheating on me. I knew I had to confront her, but part of me wanted to bury it, pretend it wasn't real. But deep down, I knew I couldn't do that. So, I waited for her to come home. The minutes felt like hours. When Amber finally walked through the door, I was standing there, trying to act normal, but I'm sure she could see the storm brewing in my eyes. She smiled, like nothing was wrong, but I could barely stand to look at her. She didn't even seem to notice the tension in the air. She walked in, tossed her purse on the counter, and started talking about her night out with the girls. I just couldn't take it anymore. I cut her off mid-sentence, holding up the phone in front of her. My hands were shaking, and I was doing my best not to lose my cool. I said, "Who's Matt?" Amber froze. Her face went pale, and I could see the panic set in, but she quickly tried to cover it up with a forced laugh. "Matt? Oh, it's just some guy from work." "Why?" she said, trying to act casual. I couldn't believe how stupid she thought I was. I threw the phone on the counter and said, "Don't lie to me, Amber. I've seen the texts. I've seen the pictures. You've been having an affair with him for months. So don't even try to deny it. She immediately went into damage control mode, her voice rising in that defensive, bitchy way I'd grown to hate. Oh my God, Jake, you're being dramatic. It's not what you think. She shook her head like I was the crazy one. It's just a little flirting. It doesn't mean anything. You know how stressed I've been, and he's been there for me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He's been there for you? Amber, you've been having sex with him. I raised my voice, trying to keep it together, but the anger was boiling up inside me. You've been lying to my face, and now you want to act like it's nothing? She crossed her arms, the usual smug expression on her face. I didn't want to hurt you, Jake. I didn't think you'd find out. It's just sex, okay? It didn't mean anything. I love you, but I needed something different. That's when it hit me. She didn't even sound sorry. It was like she was justifying it. Like it was all my fault somehow for not being the perfect husband. I wanted to scream, to hit something, but I just stood there, frozen, trying to process what was happening. I wanted to throw her out, demand she leave right then and there, but I couldn't even find the words. Instead, I just turned and walked out of the room. I couldn't look at her anymore. Not like this. I don't even know how long I was outside, pacing around the backyard, trying to make sense of everything. My mind was just in overdrive, replaying every moment, every interaction I had with her. I kept asking myself, how could I have been so blind? How could I not see the signs? The late nights, the weird excuses, the distant looks. How could I have been so sure that everything was fine when she was out there betraying me? I felt stupid. Honestly, I felt like the biggest fool on the planet. All those times I came home late from work, thinking she was just having some me time or out with friends, while she was in bed with another guy. I couldn't shake the image of her, the woman I'd promised to love and trust, laughing and kissing him. Maybe I never truly knew her. Maybe we'd never really been as happy as I thought. When I finally went back inside, Amber was sitting on the couch, looking all pitiful, her eyes wide with a mix of guilt and defiance. She didn't try to apologize again, though. She just sat there, waiting for me to speak, like I was supposed to comfort her after everything that had happened. I just stood in the doorway for a minute, staring at her. I didn't know what I was feeling, anger, heartbreak, betrayal, but mostly I just felt empty. Like everything I'd built with her had been a lie. It's hard to explain, but I felt like I'd lost a piece of myself, and I didn't even know where to find it again. Then she tried to pull that bullshit again. I never meant for it to get this far, Jake. I was confused. I was looking for something that I wasn't getting from you. I didn't even know how to respond to that. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she'd ruined everything, but instead, I just turned and walked out of the room again. I couldn't breathe the same air as her. I couldn't even look at her. I spent the night in the guest room, not sure what to do, what to feel. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. How long had she been cheating? How long had she been planning this? Was there something wrong with me? Was I not enough? I had never felt more alone in my life. The next few days were a blur. I was numb. Every time I looked at Amber, it was like I didn't even recognize her. The woman I thought I knew, the one I'd trusted, the one I'd built a life with, was gone. She was a stranger now, and every word that came out of her mouth felt like a lie. I couldn't even stand to be in the same room with her. We didn't talk much. She tried to apologize, of course, but her apologies felt hollow. She'd say things like, "I never wanted to hurt you," but I couldn't even look at her without feeling disgusted. I didn't care about her excuses or her justifications. The fact was, she'd made a choice to betray me. No amount of begging or crying was going to undo that. For the first time in a long time, I realized I didn't want to be with her anymore. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to trust her again. It wasn't even about the sex. It was about the dishonesty, the sneaking around, the fact that she had looked me in the eye every day and lied to me, pretending everything was fine. She'd been using me as a safety net while she got her needs met elsewhere. I don't know what it was that finally snapped in me, but I knew I couldn't stay in this marriage. I couldn't keep pretending like nothing happened. I wanted out. I sat her down that evening. She knew what was coming, she could see it in my eyes. She tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away. I said, "Amber, this isn't working anymore. I can't keep living like this. I can't trust you, and I don't think I ever will again." She started crying, begging me to stay, telling me that she was sorry and that she loved me, but it was too late. "You had your chance," I told her. "I can't do this anymore. It's over." I packed my things and moved out the next morning. I couldn't stay there, in that house where we'd once made so many memories. It felt like I was suffocating. I needed space. I needed time to think and heal, to figure out who I was again without her. The hardest part? Walking away from everything we'd built. But at the same time, I knew it was the right thing. As painful as it was, I couldn't keep living a lie. I don't know what's going to happen next. Part of me feels lost, like I've just thrown my entire life into a shredder. But another part of me feels a sense of relief. For the first time in days, I can breathe again. I know I have a long road ahead of me, but at least I'm taking the first step toward reclaiming myself. As for Amber, I don't know what's going to happen to her. I don't care, honestly. That part of my life is over now. It's been a few months now off in your gut, don't ignore it. I ignored it, and it cost me. On the flip side, I've learned that I can survive this. Hell, I'm thriving in ways I didn't think possible. I've started focusing on myself, doing things I hadn't done in years. I've reconnected with old friends, started working out again, and picked up hobbies I'd abandoned. I'm starting to remember who I was before Amber, and it feels damn good to rediscover that guy. As for Amber, she reached out to me a few times after I left, but I haven't responded. I'm not angry anymore, but I don't need her in my life. She made her choices, and I have to live with mine. I'm not interested in being part of her drama anymore, nor am I interested in hearing her excuses. I'm done. If there's any advice I can give to anyone reading this, it's this: don't settle. Don't let anyone treat you like you're not enough. If someone betrays you, don't give them second chances just because you're scared of being alone. I'm living proof that you can get through it. You might think your world is crashing down at first, but you'll find your footing again. It's not easy, but it's possible. Trust yourself, take care of yourself, and when the time comes, move on. It's hard, but sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the best outcomes. Thanks for listening.